And welcome back to Coast. George Norrie with you, along with Alan Greenfield, Ola Phillips, Secrets of the Real Black Lodge. The websites are linked up at coasttocoastam.com. Alan, how far back does the Black Lodge membership go? What do you think?
Well, I can only speculate on how far back because history gets blurred at some point. But you will find references to the Black Lodge in remote antiquity, certainly in medieval times, as Olive pointed out. And actually, I think the first person to do that, to point that out, was Jacques Vallée. But having, received the ball, I've run with it, and at least to medieval times. But my suspicion is to primordial shamanism. There are those who sought whatever they called it, enlightenment, and those who sought to control. And the controllers go back to the oracles of antiquity, and I would say that they have been here as long as human beings have been here.
What made them so darn evil?
Lust for power. I mean, I don't mean to trivialize it, but it's...
No, you're not. You're not.
That is the great downfall of the human race. You talk about, I don't know, the fall of Adam and Eve. It's certainly, whatever else it is, it's a metaphor for being tempted by something that if you have better sense, you would know not to do. But once you commit to it, I saw it in the magical order that I was a part of. They're not quite that dark. They're pretty dark, but not that dark. But once you start to achieve something within that kind of universe, you get this lust for power. And power is a very seductive thing. It works in religion, it works in government, it works in private industry, and it works all over the world. I wouldn't be at all surprised, and we talk about this in the book, if the inner core of the Nazi Party in Germany in the 19-teens, 20s, and eventually coming to power in the 1930s weren't affiliated with the Black Lodge. In fact, within the SS, I'm sure they were.
They probably helped finance it for a while, too.
As long as they needed to. And, of course, when the Nazis started to lose, the actual Black Lodge henchmen disappeared back into Ekati, which was their stronghold in Tibet up until the 1950s, when another darker force machine gunned the entire city, and that was the People's Liberation Army of China. But, like I said, they're not on any side. They're on their own side.
Olive, are they winning, whatever they're battling?
Well, I mean, they're battling us. And one thing I wanted to mention before I answer that is that when you look at the Nazis in World War II, in the SS, they had a group called the Hexengruppen, which was basically, they were like, black magic witches that would do their bidding and cast, curses on people. And they were known to have cursed the leaders of the United States and Russia at the time and, and Great Britain. But I don't think they're winning. I think there's more of us out there that are putting love and light into the world than there are putting darkness and oppression.
That must frustrate them.
I think it frustrates them incredibly. And I think that's why you see them turning it up a notch, right? I mean, doesn't it seem like there's more chaos and more chaos and more chaos?
Oh, my God,
chaos, yeah. Yeah, chaos is their currency. Chaos and oppression are their currency. So, yeah, I think they're trying really hard. I really do. But I think there's enough of us out there, putting love back into the world and into the ether that we're able to keep them down. But we got to keep at it.
You can't stop. Let's take some calls west of the Rockies. Aaron's with us in Fountain Valley, California. Aaron, welcome to the program.
Hello, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Thank you so much, Olaf, Alan, George, and everyone else. I just wanted to say, as far as reading this from the internet, Project Blue Book was the Air Force's third scientific study into the UFO phenomenon, started in 1952. The study's two goals were, one, to determine if UFOs were a threat to national security, and two, to scientifically analyze UFO-related data. And I think we're pretty much accomplishing that. I've personally seen one blip in and blip out. You know, as far as the Black Lodge goes, I totally agree with you. I feel some negativity there, and I just, throughout my day, I just pray and I send out positive messages, you know, and any questions I would think to have is, I mean, Olaf seems to be so knowledgeable about the space program and all this stuff, and it's like, I mean, this stuff it's real.
Oh, there's no question about it. And Alan, I'm going to give you this for your observations, your thoughts on Aaron's thoughts.
Okay, let me give a little background, and it will make sense. And I appreciate his support, which I hope he reads the book. But if he hasn't already, in 1952, July 1952, there was a major case of UFO sightings over restricted airspace.
And the Capitol, right?
Right, not equaled until 9/11. So planes, jets were scrambled. These UFOs showed up on radar, and it was headline news across the country. All you need to do is go through your local paper, July 52, and you will find a lot on this. Sort of gave rise to the first version of The Day the Earth Stood Still, too, I think. But in any case, it caused enough problems that in 1953, the following year, the CIA, I mean, none of this is secret now, okay? So I'm not just, spinning yarns here. You can find the entire report on the Internet. CIA convened a panel to look into whether UFOs were a threat to the interests of the United States, a proper thing for the CIA to be looking at.
Sure.
And, by the way, Dr. J. Allen Hynek was a member of that august group. Anyway, most of their conclusions were oriented towards what you hear from the military more recently, like in Project Blue Book, which was, that these are explainable, but we have a certain percentage of cases. They say it's something like 10%. I think it's more like 30% that defy explanation, but they don't think that it's a threat. But they said this, and this is key. They said that if flying saucer organizations, which were then beginning private organizations to proliferate, Gray Barker had one, Albert K. Bender had one, there were a number, and they were springing up around the world. It would be relatively easy for the Communist Party USA, which then actually had more than 4 members, to infiltrate these organizations and create a phony flying saucer flap, which would in turn, this is before ICBMs, which would in turn jam up the filter centers for the Ground Observer Corps, which was, visually trying to sight Russian bombers should they ever, come into this country. And it would jam radar based on what happened in July 1952. And it would be in the interest of the United States government to make sure that these organizations cease to exist. I think the CIA panel which did not consist of CIA agents. It was convened by them, but it was scientific experts like what science is the particular expertise on flying saucers. Hynek, who was rewarded for his effort, was an astronomer, and I don't think we were looking at things deep in space. In any case, lots of funny things happened, and I think that directly goes back to the Black Lodge. In fact, I'm pretty sure that somebody on that panel, and I'm not sure which one, I mean, several of the names I'm familiar with, some of them I'm not, and of course, that was almost before my time, probably at least one or two of these people were goading it into the direction of suppressing interest in flying saucers. The same thing happened 15 years later with the University of Colorado study that the
Condon report.
Exactly. Condon himself had been, I'm not saying that he was a communist, but Richard Milhouse Nixon fingered him as a weak link in our national security. Dr. Condon showed up at our convention in 1967, the largest UFO convention ever, before or since. And they had prejudged, after the Condon report came out and the damage was done, there's nothing to this. Everybody move on, nothing to look at here. It came out that they damnably said the trick would be to appear to be objective, but actually to be reluctantly debunking the whole thing. So there is a lot of nefariousness there. I'm not sure, I don't want to fall into the game of, putting the finger on any particular person. That's, I don't know, the equivalent of red baiting in the 21st century.
I get it. Let's go to Ted, truck driving in Oklahoma. Hi, Ted. Go ahead.
Yeah. Good morning, George.
Morning.
And welcome, guests. Your show's getting better and better as we go along tonight. Greed kills, number one. And speaking of power, my grandfather kicked the bucket at the Bohemian Grove. I think he's one of the few members to actually check out really on the property there in Summer Encampment. But that's not why I called. I called because you have an author named Mr. Philip, and it reminded me of Philip Marshall, who wrote The Big Bamboozle. And, George, I was just wondering, have you ever had Wayne Madsen on your show?
I don't recall, Ted. I don't remember him.
How about the book, The Big Bamboozle, about 9/11?
We've never had that on.
Okay, well, I guess you can't because apparently he shot his two children and then his dog in Northern California. And then
oh, my God.
Which is kind of strange because everything was going really good for him at the moment. So Wayne Madsen was one of the first investigators to fly out there and talk about the vans and the golf course and all the nefarious activity that appeared to be a cover-up after his death. Anyhow, since you were talking about being paranoid about writing books, I think that's a really good example. And thanks for letting me call in.
All right, my friend. Oliver, did you ever hear that author?
I have. I've also been to the Bohemian Grove. On the outside, I never got on the inside, but it's a creepy place. Even the entrance.
Strange. They've got that huge owl out there, don't they?
Yeah, Moloch. Yeah.
Next up, let's go to Denver and Jackson, Mississippi. Hey, Denver, go ahead.
Thanks, George, for this opportunity to be able to speak.
Thank you, my friend.
I appreciate what you're doing. It's so good that they exposed the truth about the Black Lodge, because the Black Lodge has infiltrated so many colleges, campuses with the sororities and fraternities. I've seen it, and it's sad that people are just caught up in stuff of power. But I love what you're doing and keep on spreading the word. I had to see the light myself because I'm an ordained minister, and I've been shown these things, how evil this world is becoming because of the Black Lodge,
That one's for you, Alan. Your thoughts?
Yeah, that is so true. Again, I don't want to finger particular people, but people of goodwill should be alert to manifestations of the Black Lodge. Once you've, I don't know, read our book or read back over the things that were written before the subject got, I don't know, suppressed or repressed is more like it, back in the 1920s, you will be able to identify those elements in your own purview, your own vicinity, your own congregation, or, well, dare I say, certain radio announcers and television personalities, and you can get the threads of the Black Lodge from that. You don't go after the individual because the individual is probably just a dupe, but you certainly need to be aware of who to take seriously and who's leading you down the garden path that leads to the cliff, and the cliff is the end of the line.
Was the occultist, Crowley, was he one of them, or did he just expose them?
I think he may have. I don't think he was a member, but I think he may have at one time been a contact or a person in their pay or whatever, who got religion or whatever, and had, what do they call it, a come to Jesus moment? And
that's right. Saw the light. He saw the light, right?
Right, and that's. I mean, that's been typical of a certain number of people. Of course, they often get killed off, and that's the sad part of it. People who wake up to this stuff need a support group, and it needs to be a support group that is established for other reasons. In other words, something like AA or NA or whatever, they're established for existing problems that everyone knows is a problem, except the Black Lodge. They peddle it. But the point is those organizations are not Black Lodge fronts because they simply help people and have been doing it for a very long time. But you need that support group so that you don't go off the deep end and you don't wind up following their messages to the edge of the cliff or over the edge of the cliff.
That's a good point. Alan, we're going to take this break. You, Olaf, as well. We're going to come back and wrap things up with both of you in just a moment on Coast to Coast AM. And we're back to wrap things up with Alan Greenfield and Olaf Phillips as we talk about Secrets of the Real Black Lodge. Olaf, where do people get the book?
Oh, well, you can get it on Amazon or wherever finer books are sold, as they say.
Did you have any doubts at all, any regrets of publishing it at this point?
No. While I was writing it, there were times when yes, I will be honest with you, it was getting bad. But no, now that it's out, I have no regrets. And a lot of people gave me a lot of love and protection, and we got it done. So absolutely no regrets. And
how about you, Alan?
Well, no regrets whatsoever. I was concerned about Olaf and his loved ones, but for myself, it was something that I needed to do, and it's something that I feel like the only reward really that I get out of it is if people are now alert to the existence of the Black Lodge and don't become paranoid about it, become aware. And that's where I'm coming from on this. I'm an old hand at this, and I know that it's there are perils of the path, but as was said in the original Secret Cipher book, resistance is not futile, and I think that resistance is the operable term to use when you deal with the Black Lodge. There's kinds.
Both of you stay safe. Olive, where's your best website?
It's actually, find me on Facebook. Just search for Olaf Phillips. That's probably the best place to find me right now.
OLAV. And Alan, how about you?
I guess we're just social media junkies or whatever. Find me on X, formerly
Twitter.
Yeah.
Okay, well, thank you both. The name of the book, Secrets of the Real Black Lodge Revealed. It's a scary book that talks about things that are really, really happening. But we talk about UFOs, extraterrestrial life, ghosts, and conspiracies. The late Brad Steiger was one of the best. Tell me about the story of Epsilon Butes. This is an incredible story that a lot of people might not be aware of what very well could be an alien object that is circling our moon.
You know, I'm so intrigued by that, and you picked up on it when it first came out. I could not imagine why people weren't going wild about this. But here is a broadcast, so to speak, and sometimes we theorize that maybe there's like, I don't know what kind of device it'd be, but some type of tape recorder in the heavens that keeps broadcasting messages. But here, and serious-minded astronomers said, you know, this is coming from a source. It's coming from something that, you know, is circling. It is in an orbit, and it is broadcasting meaningful messages. Now, and then it just disappeared from the stories, and I tried to track it down and get more information, and then I don't like to project thoughts like this, and sometimes we get a little weary of saying, oh, it must be a cover-up. But I could not understand that this could really be anything other than some kind of cover-up with this information, and there must have been more that would be released and that we reported in the book. That alien contact, it seems as though someone was telling us, you know, we're here and we're available, so to speak, for communication, and then there was nothing else.
And this object apparently was parked around our moon about, 13,000 years ago?
Yeah, that is what the communication claimed, that it had been parked there, like it was kind of an overseer, like that was its mission to say when we were ready enough to receive this information.
Well, it would still be there in orbit, right?
Yes. That's what I understand, but I haven't been able to get any more information about it. There was a lot at first, and I tried to track it down at the time, and then it just dried up, and I couldn't get anyone else to answer. But, you know, I'm stubborn. And, you know, Sherry says, yes, I agree with her. We've got to put this in the book.
Yeah,
Maybe
it's a
if
great
enough
story.
People get excited about it, you know, some additional statements from someone who should know will be forced to make these statements and explain what happened.
Well, and if it's still broadcasting something, we should have SETI point its ears that way somewhere.
Yes, indeed. And I can't believe that it isn't pointed there. But I can't get any more information. Maybe someone with higher ranking than Sherry or myself can. And I'm hoping that people will see this, someone with that kind of influence, and demand that we say, what has happened to Epsilon Butes?
You must have concluded that there are a lot of UFO reports out there, and they're good ones. Something's happening on this planet.
Oh,
you have to conclude that.
Okay, first of all, I know no disagreement from you. It's a great mystery.
It is.
Some people feel they have the answer, and they're very aloof about that, and they're very supercilious, saying, we have the answer. As long as we have been in this research field, we realize that it's a multi-level phenomenon. It's a multi-level, multi-dimensional phenomena. We know something is going on. We don't know if it's extraterrestrial, if it's multi-dimensional. We don't know, though I kind of suspect there might be bases under the sea. There might be bases under Earth to account for some of the ancient legends. But the phenomena has been with us forever, and we feel that it influences every aspect of our existence in ways that we haven't even begun to dream of yet.
We feel that strongly about it, that whatever the phenomena is, and we're not saying they come from Alpha Centauri, we're not saying they come from the hollow earth, we're simply saying consider all of this as a great mystery, a multi-layered mystery, but something is going on.
Brad, why do you think at such a young age, you, me, and so many other people became fascinated with stories of UFOs and extraterrestrial life? What happened to us?
Well, I think as the eminent philosopher Lady Gaga says, we were just born that way.
Maybe so. Maybe so.
I have to bring up one thing. I got excited about Upsilon Booties, which is a favorite of mine. Some people like to play the name game with research, and I think we cannot overlook that the British astronomer who made the discovery of this robot satellite was named Duncan Lunan.
How about that?
So again, moon, it's beside the moon. So those little things kind of add spice to research.
You know, we continue to get these UFO reports and stories all over the place. Yet there are some people who truly believe government's going to disclose. I don't think so, and I've told them that. What do you think?
I don't either. I've said that, I think as long as I've been researching in writing, I should say, which goes back to the 50s and the first book in the 66 about UFOs, I've said then it's not going to. And people say, well, they can't keep a secret. Oh, yeah, they can. I mean, but we have, and talking about this not long ago with Kevin Randall, whom I know you're aware of his fine research, and continually finding people making deathbed, I hate to use the word confession, testimony.
Sure.
Deathbed testimony.
They just want to get it off their chest.
Yeah. And you know, I can't see why someone has kept it secret all of their lives and then on their deathbed would want to leave that as part of their legacy. So it seems we're building up to a time of disclosure, but I really am not optimistic about this coming anytime soon. I know our friends in the exopolitical side of it, they're very enthusiastic, and we hear from them regularly and respect all of their research and what they're trying to do. And, you know, they're optimists, and I try to be a cockeyed optimist as much as possible. So I'm hopeful that we will have some sort of great revelation, but I'm just not terribly optimistic that it'll happen in our lifetime anyway.
Yeah, unless it's a mistake.
A mistake
or something like that happens.
Good one, George.
Let's go to the phones. David in Pleasant Hills, California, west of the Rockies. David, go ahead. You're on with Brad Steiger.
Hey, George. Hey, Brad. How you doing tonight?
Oh, okay, George.
Good.
What was your name?
David.
I'm David.
David. Okay, David.
Yeah, how's it going? I had a couple people that I've been kind of researching lately. I've seen a few YouTube videos. It's all over the internet with stuff like what John Lear has talked about. One of the big ones is Stephen Greer and that congressional. I think it was a congressional hearing that he was trying to get going as far as disclosure goes. Things like one thing I wanted to say though is I don't think we'll ever see disclosure because, as far as I know, the Bilderberg group is being controlled by the Greys. And as far as that's going on, as far as all that secrecy and these destructive agendas are going on, we're not going to see anything come out in the open.
Let's hypothesize about this, Brad. You know, this group, the Illuminati, the Bilderbergs, these people, you think they're being controlled by ETs? I would say not. I think they just don't want us to know because they're afraid they will lose control of us.
Yes. No, I don't. One stays open, as I certainly have to do, and you certainly have to do, George.
Yeah.
Stay open to all. And, you know, I'm open to that type of comment, but I think the Bilderbergers, Illuminati, and there's a lot to write about conspiracies. We're just being overwhelmed trying to keep up with that. But, again, the caller agrees that there's probably not going to be disclosure as far as groups being controlled by ETs or aliens or multidimensionals, whatever. That I think the whole field has and can have a certain paranoid aspect to it. And I think we have to be aware of that. I've seen so many friends since I began really kind of lose it, who were serious researchers, got in a little too deeply, felt that they really had insight into the truth. And then, sad to say, many of them suffered mental issues, and
that happens.
I won't go on, but it's a field, and I told Sherry before we really got into this strong again, it's like entering a magic theater in one sense. And I said, things are going to happen, because when I was really into it in the 60s and the 70s, things that just beggared normal, sensible descriptions happen. And when we really got into it, those strange, unexplainable, mysterious things happen. And you get information from many sources, and then things are... You just have to watch a very cautious line. There's something about entering this field that you have to stay balanced. You really have to know yourself. And that's why we maintain that. A time of meditation, a time of prayer, a time of reading from the Holy Scriptures of all faiths. I think you have to have that kind of balance. And it's a field, we are convinced, and I'll say it again, it's the great mystery that affects all of us.
Oh, it sure is.
In so many ways.
What fascinates me, too, Brad, these stories of submersible UFOs.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
They pop out of the ocean. They're witnessed by sailors and people on boats, ships. Truly incredible stuff.
Marvelous stuff. And get those stories we receive all the time, from shrimp fishermen and other fishermen and military men, Navy men, and so forth who write us with their reports.
Can you imagine being on a boat and you see a UFO smash itself out of the water and just take off?
Well, we stood on a shore of a lake in Peru and saw that happen at least a dozen times in one night.
Yeah.
No explanation what we were really seeing, but we all knew what it looked like we were seeing.
Anything going back in or just going out?
No, they go out, too. They would come in
and out,
dive, then go out, and almost like they were putting on a
little show for us. Let's go to Clearwater, Florida. Scott, east of the Rockies. Hi, Scott. Go ahead.
Hey, good evening. They were putting a show on for you, Brad. They knew that you'd be watching, so they put on a little play.
Okay. All right.
You can't figure out what these things are, but I figured it out when I first heard about, the UFOs. Actually, they're supernatural. I don't know why you don't want to actually say they're supernatural. You say they're multidimensional, but you can't really, you kind of stay away from saying they're actually supernatural.
I don't think you've read many of my books, have you?
I haven't. I've never read any of your books, Brad.
Well, then you would know that I began speaking of the supernatural aspect back in the 60s, much to the dismay of my fellow researchers.
And, I still think a lot of people will say they're dimensional, they're demonic.
Mm-hmm.
I still think they're coming from planetary systems within our galaxy.
Well, you cannot deny that as a workable theory, but as we said, it's such a multi-layered theory. And certainly the spiritual or the supernatural, people always, that's kind of a knee-jerk word for a lot of people, but I think we understand what we mean when I say that. That aspect of another dimension, another world, another supernatural, whatever you define that, because there are so many similarities between UFO phenomena, aliens, and ghosts.
Don't forget at 2:20 p.m. Eastern Time today, that National Emergency Action System test on your phone, your TV, and your radio. Remember, for Dan Galante, Tom Danheiser, Lisa Lyon, Lex Lonehood, Sean Ladesseur, Stephanie Smith, Chris Boros, Tim Banal, George Knapp, and Ian Punnett, I'm George Norrie, somewhere out there on Coast to Coast AM. We'll see you on our next edition. Until then, be safe, everyone.